First of all, Tashdilek, 안녕하세요. My name is Tenzin Peldon. I am the editor-in-chief of Voice of Tibet, which is a Tibetan radio service based in Dharamsala. It's a small hill station in northern India where the seat of the exiled Tibetan government is based at. So as the editor-in-chief, I am responsible for the overall production of Voice of Tibet. So we broadcast mainly news and information about Tibet to the Tibetans inside Tibet, which is currently under Chinese occupation. So our main content of our production is focused on news and events which are otherwise banned in Tibet. So we mainly broadcast in two languages, in Chinese and Tibetan language. And our production is mainly shortwave audio program being our main medium of channel inside Tibet. Then we also have news in text. We also have video formats, and that's. Well, I think it's mainly for political reason. As you know, like I just said, Tibet is under Chinese occupation. So in 1959, Tibet came under Chinese occupation, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who was then the political and both the spiritual leader of Tibet, had to escape Tibet after a failed uprising in 1959. So he was followed by about 80,000 Tibetans who came into India and were given refugee status by the Indian government. So my parents were also one of that. So of course, harsh penalties are imposed on Tibetans who are caught accessing outside information. So I think Chinese government mainly imposes these penalties only because they don't want to see any opposition to their claim over Tibet. So anything to do with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Chinese government calls him the splittest, a monk in a wolf's robe, but then of course the whole world knows what he is about. The Chinese government calls him a splittest, but he is asking for a genuine autonomy for all the Tibetans. So I think, that's mainly why the Chinese government is imposing such hard conditions. Entirely, mainly because they don't want to see any opposition on their claim. If you ask me about ordinary Tibetans, I think the first people that comes in my mind is the family of my colleague in Voice of Tibet. Like I said, we broadcast our program in two languages. So in our Chinese language section, we have 3 journalists who were born in Tibet, who have studied Chinese in Tibet, and who have escaped into India. So they have their families back in Tibet. So my colleague, he has not seen his parents, his family for many years now, and so not just not seeing their parents is another question, but after COVID, he hasn't even spoken to them. I think that's mainly because he's afraid that, his parents, if their family gets in touch with their son, they are, they get punishments, so he doesn't want to put them in trouble. So that's how it is, just for, having contacts with outside Tibetans in the outside world. And the second thing I remember is just this month, I think we reported on a Tibetan monk who was arrested by the Chinese authorities in March this year. We happened to know about him only this month, and his crime was to just share a message by the Dalai Lama in WeChat group in March this year. So he was arrested because of that and sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. So this kind of explains how Chinese censorship affects everyday lives. They can't even, they don't have right to anything like that. They can't even own a picture of a religious figure like the Dalai Lama. They can't even share stories on WeChat. And because of, different internet laws and religious freedom laws, they are not even allowed to share, teachings by another lamas who are based outside Tibet. So that's how it is, yeah. Mm-hmm. Of course, I think free media is the main cornerstone of democracy, right, in any society. And I think outside information, first of all, if I talk about Voice of Tibet, like outside media like Voice of Tibet, I think information from us helps not just in making the public make the right decision. It not just helps in fostering a relation with the outside Tibetans. I think it also helps them to embolden their rights and civic duties. I think just as an example, I think recently there was a video came out of Tibet. It became viral, and in that video we could see a bunch of Tibetans and monks crying and kneeling down in front of the authorities, pleading them to stop a dam construction in their area. So because of that dam construction, almost about 6 villages nearby had to relocate, and then there is a few monasteries which are really old, and that was going to be relocated. So these monks were really pleading with these Chinese authorities, and I think because of our coverage of that issue, I think outside media like us helps the Tibetans' insight in amplifying their voices, and in them letting them know that there are people outside who support their stand. Yeah, so I think that answers the question. Yeah, after coming here, I think it's very interesting and a good learning experience for me to know how much we have in common with the North Korean people. So I think that people in North Korea and people in Tibet share the same fate, in a sense that we are both dealing with an authoritative government, with a leader who thinks they are invincible. But as a Buddhist myself, I believe that nothing is impermanent. I believe in the concept of interdependentness, and I think in a world like today, no country can survive on its own. So I think I would like to tell the North Korean people that you should continue to believe in the goodness of humanity, and that one day this government will have to change. And and I wanted to let them know that there are people, not just North Korean defectors or people in South Korea, but people like us also, who also share the similar faith, but who also continue to believe that in the end something good will happen and things will change. So with Tibet also, it's been more than 65 years, but still we have this hope in us. Like I was born in India, I've never seen Tibet, but I have this hope in me that I will go back to Tibet sooner or later.